picking up the queen with a nice brown. All right, the Aztec and the Mayans. The idea of the three-headed consciousness, the pyramids, the hieroglyphics, always had two heads and an animal in their forehead, their third eye. The Indians always wore a helmet representing their best friend at the time, their favorite animal that just died, a wolf, a bear. The idea is very easy to understand. Rome tried to extinct animals. The animals could have taught us something, like they do in the movies. Besides it not meaning woke or woke status, it described the idea of you and an animal having a similar mind, the same consciousness. That's why it's in the forehead. But it's also been in engravings in the pyramid. It's also the same argument they use for thousands of years, that you have the same mind and conscience as an animal. You know that they are similar to an animal when it comes to talking about what's right and wrong in the Bible. But scientists quickly tell you, you wouldn't want to be born as an animal, would you? You want to be human. Those pictures, those drawings, those pyramids are a reminder of what Europeans came across. You know, it was mental warfare. It was war with making the brown people feel the emotions of guilt and feeling bad for the first time. You know, years of writing down experience, philosophy that came overseas. You know, at this time in 2024, you can learn about philosophy because you know everything. Besides experiencing space, the first battles they had was about what was right and wrong, mental battles, conversation battles, making them act, making you act without you wanting to act, making you feel bad for acting out of character. The ideas of how you're supposed to act and live in America or on Earth. The world is a metaphor for us, the word world. That was one of the war they was going through. Yeah, I like to think that lost because in 2024, they still make you feel like that. I personally don't feel that way. We have potentially developed another consciousness. You know, they also said the dams in Northern California were created by those old civilization, pools, lakes. The Rathers or Rathers in Frankfurt is Germany's city hall, built in 1253. Why is this important? This is supposed to allow you to visualize Europe going around the earth, establishing city halls and capitals before reaching New York in 1500s. You know, city hall comes from overseas, from Rome. They built city halls all over Europe, from Germany to Asia, before they came across to America in the 1500s. The history of New York is easy. There was nothing there. It was empty. It was a big empty lot of ocean, sand, and greenery. There was nobody on New York. They literally built it from the ground up. New York started from scratch. No buildings, no roads, no nothing. So when you get into politics, they were barely starting the city hall in New York. First slave sold in record and papers and people's diaries was by John Hawkins, the New World colonist in 1562, 1500s. The New World of Florida, South Carolina. From 1500 to 1900, they were traveling on boats. This is why the Mayflower is important, or the old iron. The old iron looks like this. See, I got sand in there. The moon cannot be moving the water, but it could be moving the sand since it's so magnetic and filled with metals. You know, you gotta move in a straight path with the sand, or you get stuck right here, going in circles in the middle. But that's my boat. That's my boat. It's called an old iron. You know, the old iron was made by America, and it's called the USS Constitution. A boat. It's called the USS Constitution. The first pirates escaping into the water and staying on the water. 500 years of history in boat travel. It's not told. It's missed from 1500s to 900s to until now, the Navy. That's why the boat is so important. It had a lot more than just people. It was like LAX airport. The boats were used to trade. Professional employees, farmers literally started a new town from zero, from nothing. There was nothing there from the ground up. The beginning of history in New York was that there was nothing there at first. Always think of the consequences, like my professor would say. Possibilities and stuff not told. Think of different possibilities, different consequences. Stuff not told with the stuff that is told. They don't say anything about brown people. Who knows what could have arrived in Europe in those boats? And college just say we're a superpower. We control the entire left hemisphere with America and Canada. It's being governed. But they don't say anything about brown people on those boats. Who knows what could have arrived in Europe? Maybe brown people, Spanish, white people. But the history is being told. It has started to be written. A possible lie? Who knows? One understanding of school and teaching. Just one understanding of school and teaching. Like the 1960s. But we all want amazing control of our brain and human functions. In the end, diverse travel by everyone. They may have been hooking up the queen with a nice native, a nice brown person, a nice American. Royalty love. Thanksgiving was the first time slaves made the first harvest. That's what they teach you in college. Thanksgiving was the first time slaves made the first harvest. They were being used to farm. The beginning of feeding America with easy harvested fruit and vegetables They clearly had borders to deal with and couldn't farm in Europe or trade, which led to them crossing across waters. Did we reach a year of starvation? Could they not afford to wait for their crops to grow year around after conquering all of Asia, Germany, and Africa? The slave trade is literally the creation of New York in the 1500s. Enoch Bartlett was a merchant and farmer from Massachusetts in the 1700s to 1800s. He owned a Thomas Brewer farm in Roxbury. The farm had a field of pear trees. It was a seedling tree, so it would grow more pears. It became known as the Bartlett pear. It's the most common in Canada and United States, and they took it to Europe. As I started writing my curriculum, this category tends to take me back to school. In the sense of that nobody wrote anything. The way I have wrote this makes it feel as it has a little more understanding. It's a little more understandable. I learned to write with my personality and my writing. I could still make mistakes. But what the farmers went through, like Whitman, could have been part of yellow journalism. A small part of education that was like Nazi propaganda. Or I could be wrong, up to you. Do your research. I have developed my doctor synapse. It's not like school, but you should remember talking about the topics, and it feels weird to me. If I try best to explain, it would be in these words. The subject is being taught to feel like school, and it's not school. There's so much history you're being left out on. Google Ed Sullivan, the New York Daily News. 40 years in the newspaper. From the start of the 1900s to 1970. Good numbers. They used to use cartoons to talk about politics and the newspaper. It was their sense of humor. They had biographies of people who would die in the community and present a dark cloud over the restaurant they used to work in. But it will be sunny one day. In 2024, they have biographies while they are living and famous. They don't talk about the people dying in the community anymore. The newspapers. I'm talking about how they used to write. How it was started. With a more human interest for caring for people. Now it's shootings to clearly stop the shootings. So something that started at home and was welcoming turned into, you better not do those things. Same guy, just a little more angry for the right reasons. Old age, deaths should be enough. These moments were known as ceremonies, as a celebration. Now they're much darker, being used for war. You wouldn't see cartoons now in newspaper, but they're still there as a reminder of how it used to be. They would not want to accept destroying all ideas of what it used to be by removing all cartoons from the newspapers and moving on with accepting it is used for something else and reality. Making all of us all at this moment, it warms our heart of how they used to write. Yet, think of all the other possibilities. It could have all been faked and planned to make you feel that way. Why don't they keep on continuing to show you so much love then? I'm sure it's not because of us. I'm sure we're not the problem. What is the solution? A beautiful start to knowing what to do with so much power. And to the people living the life in the hills alone in the way, keep on going. A beautiful start to the anxiety and fear of not being able to control a new territory, a large group of people, a new beginning in America. Because these people will fight back, as you've seen in history in 2024. 1900s in New York was the last of Shakespeare. Before the rebellions, they tell you when to clap and applaud in plays. Thank you and good night, America. No, I just finished watching some anime and some silly cable cartoons. One of the biggest comments a celebrity can receive from a fan is if the president says how much they were entertained by them, just like they did in the 1900s, like Eisenhower. The people watching, when you get mad, ask, how big is it? You know, the flat plains and empty field of grass that you see when you travel all up and down of California could have been filled with trees. They were all used to build the city. The trees were extracted and used to build houses and communities. They like to say Columbus in his journal wrote that when he visited California, it was one of the flattest places on earth. Mountains of dirt cover all of California. But it's a lie. It's the start of history. How it would look if they say everything was extracted and removed. They came into America with books filled with lies, similar to the Bible, but not the Bible. The trees were used to make houses. The Mayans had wood houses, and the concrete were their gardens. So if you think about it that way, people could have been put out their homes that were made of wood since the time of the Mayans and Aztecs. They were put out of their homes similar to the homes in 2024, similar to the roof that I have underneath me. One thing about the word equal is you can use it, but make sure you understand the meaning and definition, because they're two different things, the meaning and the definition. I also hate it, but it's how your superiors write. I wouldn't want to call it a secret language, being educated, but equal is a mathematical equation. Equal is a mathematical problem. Equal is a solution. If equal represents America, it means we're adding and subtracting together problems from America. That's who you say we are. This is what equal means. And it also means we're all equal. I have a long way to go, but stay tuned. I'm here to sell and start a business. They say start a vlog. What do I look like, your mama? So school started not to feel like school anymore, but an ongoing education for teaching what is new in politics. In the current time period you're in. So the school curriculum will not be the same every few years. And the school is not really school anymore, but a location. To not understand the last 100 years, but a location to repeat conversations, talk about not being up to date. And then they tell you, analyze the moment in Congress. Analyze these laws being passed. Analyze what he was saying. It couldn't have been so obvious that it turned into an art form. Because that's all you do. And you're so good at it. That means it's not worth any money.